Hello, this is Ronnie. In this video, we're gonna review some of the most popular and used JavaScript array methods that we have available. So we're gonna start by checking this very quick page that I did, very static page that I just did to um work with this particular method, and also have a graphical representation of how an array might look like using these divs. And on the right hand side we have the CSS styles, very basic, nothing relevant just here. Okay, so this is the page that I have. So we're gonna be reviewing these 7 methods. Probably once you get comfortable using JavaScript, you're gonna be working with these methods probably every single day. So as you can see, we're gonna work with the push, pop, shift, unshift for each map and filter methods. All of these methods belong to the arrays prototype, which means that for every single instance that you have, for every new array that you have, you're gonna be inheriting these methods by default. Okay, so just here we're gonna create a new array of 10 elements. Okay, and as you can see, this array is the same as this, and these colors below might be one graphical representation of these arrays. So an array is composed by the value and its index, but also you can store in an array several different uh, uh, data types that you might want, like strings, objects, numbers, whatever you want. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 10 elements in the array, and we have also 10 indexes in the array starting from 0, since JavaScript uses the 0 notation to identify elements within arrays in JavaScript. Okay, so this element right here is element number 1 at index 0. This is element number 2 at index 1, element number 3 at index 2, and so forth to the element number 10 at index 9. Okay, as you can see it just right here. So we're gonna be moving on, starting by evaluating the push method in JavaScript. So we need to call first of all the array that we're gonna be working on, the push method, and we can add one single value of different values separated by comma. So we're gonna start by adding a new single value of 11. Okay, so as you can see, it returned the number 11, but it's not the number that we just added, it's the length of the array. Since we had 10 elements, it increased by 1. Okay, so say for example we want to add the number 80, is gonna be returning 12, since the 80 number increased the length by 1. Okay, so if we take a look at the array now, it's gonna look like this. Alright, so this push method is very easy to use, and also very useful as well. So as you can see, this is the MDN documentation, and the return value is going to be the new length of the element of the array. I'm sorry. Alright, so let's move on to the pop method. The pop method is also very easy to use as well. It doesn't need any parameters to be called. We just use the array that we're going to be calling pop on, and this is gonna remove the last element in the array. So this is the first element through the last one. If we were calling pop on this current element, this would remove the number 10. Okay, since we added 2 different elements, you can see that it removed the last element that we added to the array, which was the number 80. And also, if we can look at this, we have the new array with the 80 no longer on this my array. Okay, so if we call once again pop, this is gonna remove the element number 11. As you can see now, it was removed successfully. Okay, so now that we know this very basic function and pop um, methods from JavaScript, we're gonna be using as well this method called shift to remove an element not from the end but the beginning of the array. Okay, so if we say my array dot shift, this is gonna remove the current first element of the array, which is number 1. Okay, if we take a look at the returning value is the number 1, which is the element that we removed. Okay, so according to the MDN documentation, using shift, this is going to return the removed element. Okay, so let me see, it's just right here. The remove element from the array is the one that's going to be returned. Okay, so if we keep invoking shift on this array, it's going to be removing the element from the left through the right. Okay, so as you can see, we remove the number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we take a look at the my array now. We just have these remaining elements. Okay, so now let's use on shift. On shift, this case is the opposite of shift. It's going to be inserting a new element at the very beginning. So if we call married on shift and we add the number 4, is gonna add the number 4 at the very beginning. Okay, but also we can add different values as well, 3 to 1, and there it is. Okay, so I think that we should remove the last 3 elements and add it in the correct order. There it is. Okay, so that is the basic for on shift as well. Now we're gonna be moving to some more complex and more useful of functions as well that we're gonna be using whenever we are mutating an array or changing the state of an array. Okay, so these are going to be the for each function, the map function, and the filter function. So as you can see, the 3 of them take a callback function, and this one takes 3 arguments as well. So say for example that we want to call the for each function. Okay, so this for each function is gonna iterate over every single element on the array, starting from the index 0 and moving throughout every single value. Okay, so in this case, we're going to be using the function syntax from ES5, okay, and it takes 3 parameters. It takes the item, which is going to be the one going to hold the current value of the element that we are currently at. Okay, so the first iteration is going to be 1, second iteration is going to be 2, and so forth to the 10th iteration with a value of 10. Okay, this is gonna be the item, and the index, the word says, is gonna be the current index that we are moving on. Okay, so the first iteration, item is gonna be 1, index gonna be 0. Second iteration, item is gonna be 2, index gonna be 1, and so forth to the 10th iteration, value 10, index 9. And the array, the last argument is the array, which is gonna hold the whole array that we are iterating on, so we won't need it right now. Okay, so we're gonna be using right here, we are console logging this. We're gonna say item plus index. I think that it could be better if we say index plus item. So this is going to concatenate all of this, which is going to be the index, current position, 0 at first iteration with value 1, and so forth. Let's take a look. As you can see, it is as we expected. So the index holds the index, and the item is going to hold the current item that we have on that position. So it's very useful and very powerful, this method. One important thing to note is that for each is going to be mutating or changing the original arrays data. Okay, so whatever change we make to this with inside this method is going to affect the original array. Okay, so that is very important to note as well. Now the second relevant method is going to be the map. Okay, so now map is almost exactly the same as for each, with some differences that are very important. So start with map is gonna it won't it's gonna return actually. So map is gonna return a new array. Okay, so the changes that we made to the values on the array that we're working on are gonna be returned onto a new array without affecting the original array. So say for example we want to call my array.map. In this case we're going to be using an arrow function just because we can. Okay, so it's going to return a new item. Say for example I want to save this information in a new array. Okay, so the new array is going to be array.map using the item, the index, and we're going to return the item multiplied by 2. Okay, so remember that an arrow function has an implicit return statement, so we don't need to call return to return something simple like this. Okay, so if we call now the new array method, we can see that every single value increased by 2. I'm sorry, it was multiplied by 2. Okay, so we have 2, 4, 6, and so forth for every single element on the original array. And my array is gonna keep the same element as it did at the very beginning. Okay, so this is the most common scenario for map method, but there might be also more powerful, more useful methods that you can also use as well with map. But also this is the common use you're going to be applying to the map method on any array. Okay, so remember that this particular method is, at least for my experience, very important, and is one of the most used. Say, as example, when I'm coding on React and I need to return a collection of elements and render it on the view, this is the one of the most common methods that I use to render a collection. So get to know map very well, because you definitely will need it. Alright, so now finally with filter is gonna be we're gonna be using the new array. Okay, and the new array, we're gonna apply the filter callback. We're gonna save it on a filtered array method. Okay, so with the filter method, we're gonna be using as well an arrow function, and we're gonna use the implicit return statement as well, and we're gonna filter all the items that are greater than 12. Okay, so the expected output will be 14, 16, 18, and 20. Let's see if it works. And great, it did it perfectly. So this is the most common usage for this useful method as well. But I really encourage you and advise you to take a look at the Mozilla documentation network for this method on the array object, because you're gonna need them. And also, I really advise you to practice as much as you can as well, because to retain this knowledge, you need to practice a lot. Okay, so that's it for all, and thank you for your time. Have a great day.